Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alpha Woolen, and I'm your host this evening for Inside Scoop. So, all of us are paying attention right now with bated breath, waiting for the general election in November. When we go to the ballot box, we can't only focus on the general election, however, we also have to focus on our local elections. Tonight, we have with us a candidate for the city of Fairfax. Her name is Amini Bonane. Amini, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy Eldest Daughter's Day.
You know, you get it. You get the energy.
Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining us here on Inside Scoop. I really want our viewers to know who you are, to know what your platform is, what you want to do for the city of Fairfax.
Absolutely.
So before we get into all of that, share with us your background and what led you to running for City Council for Fairfax.
Thank you so much for asking, because it's really a journey that started before I even realized that it started, right? So I am actually a former refugee. My family came from the Democratic Republic of Congo back in 1997, and so I hadn't realized that my leadership journey started back when I was advocating for my classmates, when we were the only ones that looked like us in our classrooms, and trying to navigate college with my parents being still back home and abroad and stuff like that. And so I'm just super grateful for just the opportunities that I've had just growing up in the area, from our camps in the cities to the programs that we have that really helped mold me into the leader that I strive to be every day.
Wow, so that's quite a jump from leaving Congo to where you are right now.
Absolutely.
So you said it was advocating for people that looked like you. What was the spark that said, I want to advocate, but on a greater scale?
Right. No, absolutely. It's really just realizing that some of these spaces just weren't there, right? So in 2018, I actually started a mentorship program called Brains and Beauties that works to empower just women of color and people of color who really did not have that guidance at home in terms of how to navigate college, finding a job, connecting to professional networks. And so my big, I guess, jump was just realizing that if the space doesn't exist, hello, be the one to create it, right? Connect to those who've already created it. And I just uncovered the power of mentorship and finding those who would walk that path before you, and then also training myself to become a person who I can also, you know, pave the path for others. So,
sure.
Yeah.
So you repeatedly have said the importance of opening the doors for other people.
Absolutely.
Who did you have someone that you looked up to when you were younger?
Yeah. So it was hard growing up, right? So learning the new language, French is my first language, had to learn English, watching Judge Judy, actually.
Okay.
So I could say it's technically Judge Judy, but no, just admiring women, strong women. I know that having Ann Holton be the interim president at George Mason University had a huge impact on me. Under her tenure, I was able to get legislation passed for George Mason to become the first conflict-free school in Virginia. And so just seeing just women that I wouldn't expect to be on my path, right? To just see how they made an impact within their own right really inspired me to say, okay, if she can do it, then I can do it, you know?
Conflict-free, what does that mean?
Absolutely. So being from Congo, it's actually the country where coltan, a very important mineral, is mined that powers every single electronic device on Earth. Wow. And so, unfortunately, with having such a precious metal, it comes with exploitation, right? And so conflict-free basically means that we are certifying our procurement process so that when we're sourcing these materials, it's sourced with companies who are actually against, you know, child exploitation, and we're not funding like rebel causes and things like that. And so when we got that legislation passed, basically it's George Mason agreeing to only work with organizations that are making sure that they're not contributing to that conflict.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even at a young age, you knew the importance of policy.
Absolutely.
And making decisions and how that affects people large scale.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the part of it that I really want young people to understand is the power of policy. Yeah.
Wow. So fast forward to the roles that you have right now on your website, which is Amini for Fairfax.
Amini for Fairfax.
Folks are going to see it on the screen. It says that you have your chairwoman, ambassador, and super volunteer.
Yes.
Let's start off. What is a super volunteer?
So a super volunteer is me. I was recently actually elected vice chair of the Black Caucus for Virginia Young Democrats, and I texted my friend, and they're like, there needs to be a city ordinance passed to limit the amount of positions that you do because I'm so involved. And so my biggest thing is really just having the time to just give back, right? And so for me, I see that if I'm interested in something, then if there's an opportunity, if I feel like I'm the best, fit for the position, then just go for it,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so ambassador.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so right now I am an ambassador for the Central Fairfax Chamber of Commerce, and so basically what that means is a group of us get together once a month to check in on the members of the chamber, right? So making sure that these businesses, as you know, during the pandemic had a huge hit, making sure that they have a support system and the resources that they need to not only open their doors, but keep their doors open, and also just connect with other like-minded individuals. And so I'm joining as somebody who is trying to grow my organization outside of just, collegiate networks and stuff like that. And so I've been meeting mentors and also just people who, again, have been in the shoes that I were like 15 years ago. And so really just creating spaces for people to be able to have others just to rely on. And so I really, really love the job. There's a group of about like 20 or 15 of us, and we're just really focused on making sure that the people who are the force behind the economic development in the city are supported. So yeah, I really take that seriously.
As you should.
Yeah.
So you've got super volunteer, ambassador with you said the Fairfax City Chamber of Commerce?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then chairwoman.
Yes. So the role that is really what I'm using to, guide my run for city council is running the City of Fairfax Homelessness Task Force. And so
the City of Fairfax Homelessness Task Force? Fantastic. Wow.
Yes. So I serve on that with Mayor Reed, a few council members, and representatives from our nonprofit partners, and also our just city residents who are super involved just like I am. And so just sharing that really opened my eyes to learning how to work with others in terms of not just, having the same beliefs, but also just trying to navigate around maybe somebody not having the same experience and trying to see the middle ground between, their experience and somebody else's experience. And so I got onto that role really just riding the Q bus, as weird as that sounds. I applied because we were all appointed by Mayor Reed and council members, right? And so I realized that riding the Q bus, I would encounter unhoused people, especially women, who were being assaulted or had faced some sort of hardship, by not having the protection you would have, And so I really wanted to be an advocate and a voice for them, that even if they weren't at the table, because I'm at the table, they do have a voice at the table. And so I didn't go into it thinking I'd be chair, but they voted for me, and I was happy to accept the position. But really my role in that was just to connect the resources that are already available, right? So that we can come as a community together to address homelessness, right? Which is, as you know, a multifaceted issue that you can't just throw one thing and hope it sticks, right? It's a long-term process that I believe as many voices at the table as possible need to be there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some folks will probably remember that Catherine Reed was one of the primary hosts here for the Inside Scoop before she became the mayor.
Absolutely.
Yes. So with your work with her, when it comes to our unhoused community, what's one misconception you think that most people have when it comes to people who are experiencing homelessness?
Absolutely. Catherine and I actually did an interview back in June on with WJLA, I believe, on just what exactly these misconceptions are, right? So just a fun story. Well, not so fun, but just like an impactful story. The first thing when we gathered as a task force, Catherine and I went over actually to Reston. There's a homeless encampment there called The Hill. It was organized by church leaders and also a wonderful organization called Reston Strong. And so being there just really opened my eyes to seeing how so many people come from different walks of life but can still end up in the same spot, right? So when you see someone on the street, you might see, okay, maybe they just did something that caused them to just fall down a path that led them to homelessness. But then you realize that this is a mom, this is a college grad, this is somebody who could have been your childhood best friend that just got in a situation that they weren't able to get out of, right? And so one of the things that impacted me the most going there, even though I refused really to go into the encampments because I didn't feel like encroaching on their space, is just realizing why they are on that specific plot is because they were looking for that community, that support system that most people have at home with family and friends. And so they don't have that, and so they recreate that on their own terms with the resources and the means that they have. So, yeah.
Wow. Gosh, that's huge.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
It is. I think there's so many, as you mentioned, there's so many roads that can lead to someone being in that situation.
Absolutely.
With affordable housing being such a huge issue in Northern Virginia, in Fairfax County, in the city of Fairfax, and Arlington, and just this general area. That's a situation that many of us can grapple with. I know of a young lady that I worked with years ago. When I met her, she was 17. She had 2 children. She had a 4-year-old.
Wow.
She had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and she was pregnant.
Wow.
So we went through a series of steps to make sure that she did have shelter, but she did share that there were a few times as a 16-year-old with a small child that she was living in her car.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm sure in the encampment you saw or you heard similar stories.
No, absolutely, and I was actually grateful that one of the 38 recommendations that we proposed to council that are currently being reviewed is to capture those people that aren't captured in the point-in-time count. So the people who aren't technically homeless because they are maybe sleeping on a friend's couch or sleeping in their car, are still that we're figuring out a way to still account for them, right? Because they still need those resources. But if we're not having the data to back up the funding that we need, it becomes a little difficult. And so that's why it's so important to have the people with lived experiences, right? Like, for example, my friend Heather Thomas. Hi, Heather. She actually is somebody who had that lived experience of being on the streets with her kids and figuring out how exactly am I going to feed my babies and how exactly am I going to make sure that they have what they need in order to survive another day. And so for me, my biggest thing, especially running for city council, is continuing my role as an advocate to bring the people who don't have a voice necessarily. I don't believe that there's such thing as the voices. I believe that there's just people who go unheard, and so I want to make sure that we're directly sourcing from those lives, right? The exact needs and wants directly from them. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I like what you said about the importance of creating policy based upon data.
Absolutely.
I think there's a difference between being an advocate and just wanting something to get done versus having a plan, again, based upon data. So please make sure you don't go anywhere as we continue our conversation with Amini Bonane, candidate for the City of Fairfax City Council. Don't go anywhere.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mamas. I think the whole world's addicted to the drama, only attracted to things that'll bring the trauma. Yeah, madness is what you demonstrate, and that's exactly how anger works and operates. Man, you gotta have love just to set it straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love, y'all.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. When you practice what you preach, what you turn the other
Ma'am,
cheek.
you forgot your purse.
Oh, you don't know how worried I was. Thank you very much.
Honesty. Pass it on.
Nice move, kid. Donut?
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
We're back. to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Thank you so much for joining us back here on Inside Scoop. I am Alpha Woolen, your host, and tonight we have with us Amini Bonane, who is a candidate for Fairfax City Council. So when we left off, we were talking about the importance of creating policy based upon data. That's really how you make a difference.
Absolutely.
But now just share with people, you obviously you have a heart for your community. You have a heart for the city of Fairfax, but you could have been an advocate. You could have been, you could have worked for the city. You could have done a number of things to help your community.
Absolutely.
Why the thankless job of being an elected official?
Absolutely. So again, it all stems from my experience chairing the homelessness task force, right? So the goal of the task force, yes, even though the people wanted us to solve homelessness overnight, but really what we were trying to do is build a framework of recommendations to mayor and council, right? And so transitioning into running for city council, I want to see enacted the 38 recommendations we just spent the last year and a half making, right? And so, yes, it'd be great to work for the city. I love the staff. We build a great relationship just working together. And of course, being an advocate, I'm always going to be an advocate, you know, no matter what happens November 5th. It's just having the voting power in order to enact some of these changes that we all came together as a group.
I think it's so important for people to follow their vote. And
Absolutely.
I think you're taking it a step further. You said that we spent this time creating these recommendations. Now you're willing to put yourself in a position to make sure it actually gets done.
Absolutely.
And I always encourage people, when you vote, follow your vote. You know, hold that elected official accountable for the policies that they sponsor.
Right.
Or that they write. So I think that's awesome. On your website, which is Amini for Fairfax, you have that your priorities are city residents, city businesses, and city visitors.
Absolutely.
Why those three pillars?
Right, yeah, so I believe that Fairfax City is the best small town in America, okay? It is my hometown, my pride and joy. And through my work as an advocate and just living here and growing up here, I've learned that those are the three main stakeholders that make us so unique, right? So where else can you live where you're only a short metro ride from DC, but also right next to George Mason University, which is the most diverse and largest research university in Virginia. And so for me, I really think that these three stakeholders, if we're not specifically looking to how we can make sure that they are aligning with our strategic plan, that's exactly how we're going to just pave a path to a better Fairfax, right? So my biggest thing with each of these stakeholders is really just acknowledging how far we've come, right, as a city, right? And then also figuring out how we're gonna pave a path forward. And so my three main focus points really are just to protect our rights as residents to be informed, right? Preserve our safety and well-being, and also just prioritizing making sure that everybody has a voice at the table. And so with city residents growing up here, I know like the nuanced things, right, where it's like, okay, I'm walking along the street, how come there isn't a sidewalk here, right? So I said earlier that I ride the Q bus daily, and I see how when it snows, it's not plowed, right? And so with businesses, with my experience being an ambassador for the Central Fairfax Chamber of Commerce, I'm seeing some of like maybe the gaps in terms of what people have been asking for, right? And so, for example, there was a cupcake shop by I live where it was like one of the few Black-owned businesses in the city that closed down. And so going back and saying, okay, I wonder what we could have done as a city to make sure that this business stayed open, right? Sure. And so with visitors, which is I want to say my favorite part, but I am a co-committee member of the city special events, and so we have such a unique opportunity to become like a unique destination for just cultural celebrations, right? So some of the things that Mayor Reed in her tenure as our mayor have implemented is celebrating Black History Month and Pride Month and Juneteenth, and just working with staff on chairing the Juneteenth committee this year. It's been such a great opportunity to just show the rich history of the city and the Black history of the city and things like that. And so I am so grateful for the fact that I am running as the hometown candidate, because it's really coming from it's not just like another title for me, right? So what the decisions that this next council makes is really going to impact the future of all residents, right? And so I'm really proud of the work that's been doing, and I really am looking forward to being a part of the work that's going to be done as well. So,
sure.
Yeah.
An organization, a city, a company is literally as good as its people.
Absolutely.
So I understand why you are people focused.
Absolutely.
From the visitors to the residents to business owners.
Absolutely.
So when you look on the city of Fairfax, their policy goals include economic development, environmental sustainability, community, transportation, and governance.
Absolutely.
What is your goal as an elected official, and pick one or two of those pillars? Again, governance, transportation, community, environmental sustainability, and economic development. If you tomorrow, come November 5th, you are one of, 6 that are chosen?
6 at-large seats, correct.
Yes. What is your vision in one of those pillars?
So my vision is really seeing how there's a through line through all those pillars that align with our strategic plan, right? So back with chairing the homelessness task force, I'm not the expert on homelessness, right? So we have our staff member, Leslie Abastian, who is the director of human services. And then we have Tom Barnett, who runs the Office of Homelessness Prevention in Fairfax City. And so just with my experience, with the executive experience I got from that, I've learned how to connect people to the resources that are already there, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and say that I know everything about economic development. No, but I do know Chris Bruno, who is the president of our Economic Development Authority over here in the city, right? And so for me as a council member, I want to empower the people and work with staff to make sure that the goals that we're coming up with the council aligns with what they've been working on as their job when they clock in and clock out, but also keeping the residents informed of what's going on. Because I feel like what happens with the disconnect is that somehow the residents feel like they're being left out of the conversation. I feel like it's our job as council members to make sure that we're bridging that gap so that everybody feels like they're included, right? So we have a goal of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and for me that goes deeper than just, checking off a box. It's putting in the effort to go above and beyond to do that community outreach so that everybody feels that they are being heard, right? It doesn't mean we're gonna come to an agreement, but just knowing that you're heard puts people at ease so that they know that, okay, something is being done about this, right? And so I guess you wanted me to choose one of the specific goals. Let's focus on transportation, for example, right? Okay. So like I said, I love our Q bus. It's free. I want to keep it free. But it's just so amazing how eye-opening you get to see the heart of the city just by doing something as simple as riding the Q bus, right? So not only are you helping with our environmental goals, right? So again, it all connects together, but you're also just seeing the needs of the city, right? So like I said earlier, that's where I encountered a lot of our unhoused friends, right? And so just getting into close contact in a setting where you aren't necessarily invading their space, but it's a shared space that you all can come together and learn more about each other, right? And then, hello, I get to where I need to go for free, which is great. But I really just want to emphasize that it's all interconnected and working together to make sure that we're all on the same page and at least all feel that we're being represented, even though we're not instantly going to come to an agreement. But I feel like that's going to smooth over a lot of this maybe divisiveness that we've been seeing in the political climate.
Wow. And so that actually leads to a question that I'm going to ask a bit later. But so campaigning is hard work.
Oh.
You've got to raise money.
Absolutely.
You've got to knock on doors. You've got to send mailers. You've got to write letters. You've got to listen to people. So as you are encountering residents of the city of Fairfax, what's the #1 issue people are? What keeps coming up?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't want to toot my own horn, but it is homelessness, right?
This is your platform to toot.
It is definitely the concern over public safety. And I am working so hard with my colleagues to disconnect the relation between homelessness and crime, right? So these are two things that, yes, can intersect here, but at the same time, if you really look at the data, you'll see it's the same 20 or so individuals committing like most of the crime that you see posted on the crime bullet in the city of Fairfax. And so with people who are unhoused, at the same time, you're not seeing the data of the things happening to them in the encampments, right? Like if I didn't have that antidote and personally speaking with these ladies, I would have never known the things that are happening to them in our parks, you know? And so for me, I and even with the neighbors who come to complain about how they're being affected, they're not even coming from a malicious place. They're coming from a place of, what exactly can I do when I encounter somebody who's maybe having a mental health crisis, or maybe is, I'm seeing them take something because they haven't eaten today, right? And so my biggest thing is connecting people to the resources that are already there, right? So for a funny example is, throughout my tenure as chairing this task force, I get people texting me like, hey, Amini, I just encountered somebody who needs help. Where should I send them? And then I connect them to the LAMP Center, for example, or Fastest if the LAMP Center is not open, right? And so I want to be able to, for anybody who encounters somebody, to have just that knowledge, or maybe just the direction of where to go in order to help that person, so that their automatic response isn't just to call 911, because at the end of the day, the police, there's only so much the police can do, So it's just really about connecting people to the resources that are already out there.
Wow. So this is a congested race. You've got, including you,
absolutely
11 names.
11 wonderful people.
Yes, that are going to be on the ballot. So what makes your ice colder than everyone else's?
So I know I'm supposed to feel kind of intimidated by that, but I'm so happy that there's 11 people running, because that just shows the dedication to making sure that people have their voices represented at the table, right? And so I welcome, I guess, competition. I also come from the pageant world, where it's like there's 20, 40 girls competing, right? But at least here in this case, it's 6 seats instead of just 1 crown. But what makes me stand out as the candidate is that this, for me, isn't just, again, I'm not looking for something to add to my resume here. This is my hometown. I grew up here. I understand the needs of residents who have been here for 40 years versus residents who have just moved here after college or something like that, right? And so also, as a student at George Mason University, I also understand how important it is to involve the youth into this political process as well, right? And so I'm really running to make sure that you, no matter what your walk of life is, because I have that experience as a former refugee as well, knowing that, feeling isolated, feeling like I'm not heard, and knowing that if I'm on city council, you're going to be represented, right? So I'm a proud young Democrat, but just like Michelle Obama just said at the DNC, whether you're a Republican, independent, or Democrat, it doesn't matter. You're just voting because you're understanding how important it is for your voice to be heard, right? And so I want you to be part of this process, and I'm putting my hat in this process. Even if I'm not on a slate, it's because I really care. I genuinely have a love for the city of Fairfax.
Wow. I think that's so important. For everyone to understand that no matter what side of the aisle you fall on, you have the opportunity to voice your vote. There's so many countries that don't have that opportunity.
Right. Mine included.
Right. So don't go anywhere as we continue our conversation with Amini Bonane, candidate for the Fairfax City Council.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 70 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Oh, Dad, wait till you see the bike we got for Jake.
Hearing loss happens gradually with age, making it easy to ignore. Yet most older Americans aren't getting their hearing tested. Untreated hearing loss can keep your loved ones from enjoying what they cherish most.
Dad, can you hear me?
Don't let that happen. Speak up about hearing loss. You'll be glad you did.
You can't buy a best friend. You can love them, pet them, care for them, whether they want you to or not. You can take a picture, you can jump, yell, you can fly to the moon, travel the world, or just stay in bed. You can't buy a best friend like that, but you can adopt one. 'Cause we're connected.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
And thank you again so much for joining us back here on the Inside Scoop as we continue our conversation with Amini Bonane, who's candidate for Fairfax City Council. When we left off in the previous segment, we were talking about the importance of our democratic system, the fact that no matter where you fall in the aisle, you have the opportunity to voice your vote.
Absolutely.
So speaking of which, you were recently at the DNC.
I was.
You have to tell me how that was.
Phenomenal. Oh my goodness. It was my first time. This was actually a year first for me. I was at the Virginia Young Dems one in April, and then I was actually elected a delegate at the state party convention back in June. So it was just like a ball that keeps rolling, but it was just such a transformational experience because everyone that you could have thought of was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is unique about the city of Fairfax is that it's nonpartisan.
Right.
It's nonpartisan,
right.
And it's at large. But for folks that might not know what that means, could you explain it to our audience?
Of course. So basically, being nonpartisan means that you are running independently, right? And at large. And so we have 6 precincts here in the city of Fairfax. And if it wasn't at large, each of us would represent ideally a different precinct, but we're representing all Fairfax all at once.
Wow.
Yeah.
And nonpartisan means?
Nonpartisan basically means that you are not outwardly affiliated with your political party.
Okay, so everyone has to work together no
Everybody,
matter what.
Exactly, and we all have eyes next to our names on the ballot.
Right, I think that's important. I think that's important that people see.
Absolutely.
That 2 parties, 3 parties, whatever, can work together.
Absolutely.
And it actually works.
Absolutely, and that's very much what part of my campaign is. Just, it's people powered, right? So I didn't say it's just a certain sect of people. I am a proud young Democrat, but at the same time, again, chairing the Homelessness Task Force has really shown me the skills that I have in order to work across the aisle, right? Even though obviously people have their own, political beliefs, whether they say them outwardly or not. I think what, at the end of the day, especially at the local level, the most important thing is making sure that you all are coming together to accomplish the set of goals that the city has set, right? And working together with city staff and also hearing out city residents, regardless of your party affiliation.
Sure. Today's political climate.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Because you mentioned that you're part of Virginia Young Dems, and you mentioned earlier that you're part of you're the president or vice president of the Virginia.
Yes, I just got elected vice chair of the Black Caucus, correct?
Vice chair of the Black Caucus, and you've done work with the unhoused, even though the city of Fairfax has probably a pretty high per capita for income.
Right.
So
no,
just
absolutely.
Just seeing that issue seeing so many issues from all sides. And also being a Black woman, I think that intersectionality in the political space, that says something. And if you are elected, you'd be the first African American woman on Fairfax City Council.
Which is just phenomenal for me because as Vice President Harris, I feel like I'm in that elevator up to breaking that glass ceiling with her, which is just never in my wildest dreams that I think. But it's just so important that, first of all, there's people who are paving that path already for me, right? So back when I started my mentorship program, I wanted to create that space for women of color, people of color, just young girls in general, to be able to know that your dreams aren't crazy, right? Like there's actually a path here, and let me show you a tangible evidence of those dreams being definitely attainable. So, yeah.
Why is it important though? I'm asking a question. I have my own answer, but everyone could have their own answer, right?
Absolutely.
Why is it so important? Why is this milestone particularly important when it comes to being the first Black woman elected to Fairfax City Council?
Right, because it sets a precedence, Alpha. Just straight up. You wouldn't know that something is possible until it's done, right? So with just running, especially at a local level, I get asked, oh, are you gonna go to maybe doing like a statewide race? I'm like, no, I wanna start at the local level because that's where the day-to-day stuff happens, right? So that's what, yes, we have the presidential, Congress, Senate races all on the ballot, but your local is where it impacts you the most on your day-to-day basis, right? And so for me, I really believe that it's so important to just see that you can set a goal for yourself, and it also it's attainable, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And it's just important to know that there's people out there that are going to support you, right? I couldn't do this without like my little coven of Black women supporting me, because the other part of running is that I am still in my 20s, right? And so when we're taught civics in school, we're taught that it's typically just this demographic of people who are allowed to be part of the political process. But then when they see someone like me running or some of the other younger candidates running, oh wait, no, I'm allowed to actually, you know, voice my opinion. Or if I see something on social media, especially in the social media age that we're in now, I can do more than just post a hashtag. I can actually, if I'm this age, I have this, if I met the living requirements, I can actually run for this office, right? And so for me, it's all about democratizing access to these spaces by just really being that change that you want to see in the world, and just encouraging people to know that no matter what happens November 5th, that like, at least we tried, you know?
Sure, sure. I think when we talk about homelessness, when we talk about crime,
right,
when we talk about education, when we talk about housing affordability, when we talk about common sense gun violence prevention, I think that I know that every person is going to be affected by those, but how they are affected depends on your gender,
absolutely,
and the color of your skin,
absolutely.
And I think that's why it's so important to make sure we have all representation in spaces when it comes to policymaking, whether you are a white man, we need white men, we need Black men, we need white women, we need Black women, we need Latino, we need Asian, we need everyone
at the table,
to make sure that policies cover everyone.
No,
and
absolutely.
We can't assume that one person that has one lived experience can speak and make decisions for everyone. That's why everyone needs to be at the table.
No, absolutely. And I also believe that even if you don't have that experience, there's still empathy, you know?
Sure.
So a sad story that I will share is that last summer, my nephew's father was actually killed by the police because of a mental health episode that he was having. Wow. And so my nephew now has to grow up in a world without his dad, a young Black man in America, having to navigate his father being taken away in the same way that other people of color, like Sonia Massey recently experiencing like a similar mental health episode, you know?
Sure.
And so because of these experiences, I'm able to be an advocate, and I'm able to say that, hey, there needs to be another way forward, right? And so the city of Fairfax is blessed to have a really strong police department, but then because I have that experience on council, I'm able to say, okay, let's see if we can make sure that we are working law enforcement with our community response team, for example, and seeing how people can have access to the community response team and what exactly the community response team is and what it does and when they're available, you know? And so just giving people more options so that they don't always feel they have to act from a state of panic, right? Because there are other alternatives out there, but how are you going to use them if you don't even know they exist?
Sure. So you're saying that currently that connection is not in place with Fairfax City Police Department, that mental health connection?
So it's in place, it's in connection, I'm sure, but I'm just saying that we need to do a better job of reaching out to the community to make sure that they have those resources and that knowledge in their hands that, hey, we actually have a community response team that's specifically formed to help people going through mental health episodes, and how do you contact them and when they're open and things like that. And so for me, my biggest thing again is to make available the resources that we already have. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm just here to make sure that in whatever situation that you're going through, you know exactly what steps to take, right? Just like if you have a tornado drill at school, you know to tuck and roll, right? So I want to make sure you have that same exact response wherever you encounter something in the city.
Sure. That is actually one of your pillars. You said you want to make sure you want to protect
the right
to information, the right to be informed. Have you found that there are barriers to information in the city?
Absolutely. So we have a interesting changing demographic, but it's still the same good chunk of folks who are older, right? So let's say that something is posted on social media. Not all our residents are on social media, right? So making sure we have like a bulletin that goes out to make sure that they have that information, or if they call in, they are directed to the right person. Or for example, we have the Fairfax City 411 app, where it's like a great all-in-one app where you can go into like report a pothole, or if you see something that's suspicious, you can go on the app and report it. But if they don't know how to navigate the app, okay, let's maybe host a workshop on how to make sure that you have it on your phone. Right, you know, just simple things like that, just to know that make residents feel like they're heard and that we're making an effort to make sure that they have the information that they need.
What about language barriers?
And language barriers, thank you, exactly. So we have a good portion of our population that is Korean, another good chunk that is Hispanic, and so making sure that if a flyer does get posted, that it's posted in Korean and Spanish. You know, just the little things to show people that we care.
Sure, absolutely. So when you go around talking to neighbors, so we've heard about information, making sure there isn't a barrier for that, for language, also safety, the safety component.
Absolutely.
What about young people, youth?
Yeah,
What are some things that our younger voters, or maybe folks that aren't old enough to vote yet, what are some things that you're hearing?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited. We're gearing up to have a voter registration drive over at Fairfax High School and George Mason University, partnering with Ignite. And so they're really just concerned about whether their vote counts at all, right? Because it's easy to get overwhelmed, you know, with the things that are happening outside of the US, right? And so I need them to know that they also deserve a voice at the table, right? And so one of the things that I guess this is an exclusive for Inside Scoop that I will be implementing is creating a youth commission in the city, right? Because we have at least 2 for our older population, but the youth, they don't really have that kind of resource in the city. And so that's one of the things that I hope to realize whether or not I get in on November 5th, because they need a space where they know that they matter, right? So we have wonderful programs in the city. Like, for example, we just did a really great iteration of Legally Blonde, the musical. And so that was like an outlet where I got to meet young people and hear that, like, hey, like, we basically need more to do. And the other part of it is that they have such a heart and yearning for service, right? Even though it's, yes, volunteered service hours, they also want to just give back to their community. And so I would love to create some sort of hub where we have a bank of volunteers that, like, if we need something for Asian Festival, or if we're having a food drive that the Women's Club is hosting, that we already have that list of people, hey, I want to volunteer, so that the young people feel like they're also included and needed in the city, which they are, because we're the future.
Exactly, and I think it's unrealistic for us to think that if we don't engage young people in the political process to help them understand the importance of policy, it's unrealistic for us to assume that they're going to know how to be an informed voter and to know what policy works for them. So I'm looking forward to you manifesting that.
Thank you.
So please make sure you don't go anywhere as we finalize our conversation with Amini Bonane, who is a candidate for Fairfax City Council. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this conversation. My favorite segment is coming up. We'll see you after these PSAs.
Nice going, Spencer. I can't believe we broke Old Man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We?
Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious?
It's my ball, Myrtleback.
You're so dead. I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go.
See
ya. You never mean you're well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Keep smiling, keep shining.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Wanted some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about freak-out fight. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Only you
can prevent wildfires. Fire!
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
And thank you so much for joining us back here on the Inside Scoop as we continue and close out our conversation with Amini Bonane, who is running for Fairfax City Council. So, why should folks in Fairfax, in the city of Fairfax, why should they vote for you?
Why should they vote
got
for
11
me?
choices.
Yes.
What's going to make you stand out from everyone else?
Because I am the hometown candidate. Fairfax City is my home, and I want to make sure that it remains home for so many people, no matter what your walk of life is, right? So I am invested in the long run here. I hope to someday start a family here and raise my kids here someday. And so I am not just here for just another title. I'm here because I love the people, and the city of Fairfax deserves heart-centered leadership. Hello.
Okay, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. So, as we said earlier, campaigning is not easy.
It is
so
not.
Do you have some events coming up?
Absolutely. So I actually will be over at Connie Mayor's house this Saturday from 9:30 a.m. to 11, and then we're going to go on a free walking tour. Shout out to Historic Fairfax that I volunteer for.
Super volunteer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we also have a candidate forum coming up with the League of Women Voters and the Central Fairfax Chamber of Commerce, September 25th. And then I'm also having a reception for business leaders at September 14th at the Rodriguez's house. So
Okay, so slow down.
Yes.
Okay, League of Women Voters.
Yes.
I love candidate forums.
Yes.
Have you ever participated in one?
I have not participated, but I volunteered at one.
Yes. So that's going to be, so it'll be
Yes.
all 11 candidates?
All 11 candidates. We actually have 2 forums that day, one in the Cobbsdale neighborhood from, I believe, 5 to 7, and then the League of Women Voters one is at the Sherwood Center at 7:30, and it's in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really excited for that. We're going to do our 2-minute intro speeches, and then, because there's so many of us, we're just going to have little station tables where people can come and talk to us.
So it's not going to be everyone speaking, like everyone stage. You're going to have like little
little stations,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little twist because there's a lot.
Right. I'm going to give you a trade secret. Have snacks at your table.
Absolutely.
Snacks at your table.
See, that's what Yeah. At the 4th of July parade, I was handing out heart-shaped lollipops. You know, got to stay on brand.
Got to let people, linger a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you got the League of Women Voters, and then what's another event that you're having?
Yeah, so we're having a reception on September 14th just to recognize business leaders here, because we in the city, we're just so blessed to have such a wide range of businesses, right? So we have our women-owned businesses, we have family-owned shops like Ace Hardware, and just national franchises. And I just want to take an opportunity to just hear back from the business community, because they have also been affected by the unhoused population, and that's been a little bit of tension going on there. And so I just want to hear from them and see what they have going on, and just take a moment just to recognize their efforts, because they're the backbone of our economic development. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So so the small business event is something specifically that your campaign is having.
Absolutely.
And that's September 14th.
That's going to be September 14th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Where?
At the Rodriguez private home.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. so folks can go to your website to like register and sign up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what else we got going on?
So we're just knocking doors.
Okay.
We're writing postcards. We're really just gearing up here because, again, I am not on a slate. And so this is really just a people power campaign with people who are ready for leadership that is heart-centered to lead the city of Fairfax. So we're really excited to have a great campaign manager. Hi, Cindy. Shout out to Cindy, who I actually met at Wander Inn, which is one of the businesses that unfortunately has closed down now. But because we've had that interaction, I'm able to go back in and help out the ladies who weren't who were selling there before. So I'm really excited to just revitalize and re-amp up like all the things that I'm just excited to do. So yeah.
Were you telling me in a previous segment that in your home country, Congo, that their political process is not democratic?
So I am just focused on the city of Fairfax right now because of course, I'm also advocating back home. That's why I was able to get that legislation in 2018 passed for conflict-free. So it's like what I'm doing now, I feel like will eventually hopefully even inspire somebody who is back home who can participate in that political process to step up, because it is a little tricky there. We do have a democratically elected president now, we're making progress, but again, progress starts with the youth, and I really just want to empower the youth to put themselves out there, because that's the only way that change is going to come.
Absolutely. I think sometimes we take for granted the freedoms that we have when it comes to voting rights here in the U.S. That yes, we have some roadblocks. One thing I tell people is that our political system, it's a beautiful mess, but it's our beautiful mess.
Absolutely.
It's an imperfect if everyone were perfect, if no one made mistakes, then it would be a perfect process. But because it depends on human beings that are going to make mistakes, there are going to be holes and errors and issues, but that's where the work is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's actually, thank you for bringing that up, because as a young leader, I have a long way to go, right? I will never claim to be perfect. I will never claim to know everything, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to be taken in, pulled to the side, called in, not called out. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we are all here working towards the same goal, so we might as well work together to accomplish them.
Fantastic. Who is your political inspiration?
Jennifer Carroll Foy.
Wow, okay.
And I'm so excited that she'll be here, right, as a guest.
So Senator Carroll Foy is actually going to be here on the Inside Scoop in October, so make sure you stay with us.
Yes, but yeah. I actually got to catch up with her at the state convention back in June, because her running for governor really, because I come from an organizing background, and so that got me interested in going to the other side, which is the political process, and I'm a strong believer that we need both, right, in order to hold our leaders accountable. So accountability is big, and she definitely paves the path to know that you can have both.
Yes, I mean, I think she was raised by her grandmother, and just everything that she did was just where she is right now was from a grassroots
running with
effort.
Twins.
Oh my gosh.
What? Yeah. Superwoman.
Absolutely. So, Amini, thank you so much for joining us here on the Inside Scoop. My favorite part of the show is where I get to ask you questions so folks get to know who you are. But folks can visit Amini for Fairfax, that's AMINIFOR, Fairfax.com.
Absolutely.
It's going to be at the bottom of the screen. Please make sure you visit her website to figure out where you can help out. So now let's give folks a backroom glance into who you are.
Yay.
So first question, breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast?
Breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast? So, breakfast for dinner. I live right by IHOP, so walk on down.
Right. Easy choice.
Absolutely.
Okay. What language would you like to learn and why?
So I would definitely love to learn Spanish more, right? So French is my first language, then I learned English, and now it just feels right to learn Spanish.
Wow.
Yeah, it is definitely a beautiful language, but also I love to be able to communicate with people who that's their main language, right? So I always believe in meeting people where they are, and so if you speak Spanish, I want to be able to talk to you better.
Do your family members?
So
do you still speak French?
Yeah, it's my first language, so I speak it with my family members. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So French and Spanish are kind of like in the same family.
Right. No, absolutely. And I have Dominicans in my family, so they can teach me. And my sisters are fluent, so.
You've got the system right
exactly.
there. Okay. What's your favorite season and why?
My favorite season is, I want to say spring-ish. Because I love a hot girl summer, but I need to be able to be cozy. I love being cozy.
Okay. Rain and all that. Do you have allergies at all?
No.
Oh gosh, I have allergies. I can't. It's awful.
Right.
I'm
so my birthday's March 5th, so maybe that's why I'm like the spring, winterish, where it's like not yet allergy season. So in between. Okay. What about you?
My favorite season is fall.
Okay.
Autumn. I love the leaf change, the colors, and the air. The air just smells different.
Absolutely.
Also, it's a sense of newness. I think that comes from our school system. You start the school year in August, so growing up knowing, you got the new clothes and you have new teachers.
Absolutely.
And just went with me throughout adulthood.
I love that, and it's funny you say that because for me, I feel like my spring, winter is also new beginnings because it's like the trees have finally gotten a chance, you know, to come out of hibernation and stuff like that.
That's such a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're like yin and yang.
Yin and
Literally,
yang.
look at us.
It.
Look at us.
We'll what is your favorite movie of all time?
A Bronx Tale.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you know the movie?
I do.
Oh,
wow.
Yay. So yes, I'm waiting for my color girl to come into my life someday.
So are you that person who like if someone, you know, if they open the door for you, are you gonna lean over?
Listen, I literally have a t-shirt that says one of the greats.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. I'm a hopeless romantic, but I do love an action film. So I'm notorious for falling asleep at the movies, but I will say Black Panther is the only movie that I've watched in theaters that I've never fallen asleep.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Did you see the second one?
It was too sad.
I didn't. I haven't seen it.
It was too sad. I couldn't do it.
Gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite movie of all time is Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh.
Have you seen it?
I have not. It's okay. We'll see it now.
Yes,
yeah.
You have to see
Absolutely.
It's just the whole.
What's it about? Tell me.
So Fiddler on the Roof is about this Jewish family growing up in Russia. And so it's kind of like you know, he's got daughters and the daughter gets married, but they also go through pogroms, which is like, you know, persecution from the, you know, Russians in the city.
Yeah.
And he's his father who wants to provide for his family. It's just,
I feel like I have seen it in the past
It's such a wonderful story.
Yeah.
I know every song.
Oh,
If I were a rich man.
Oh, okay, yeah, I recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite movie of all time. Okay, what's your favorite song?
My favorite song is probably, I want to say Hey Ya by Outkast.
Of all time. Okay, we'll take it.
I'm a big family
judgment.
person, and you know, that's just a song you can play at family events and everybody just gets crunk. You know, you don't have to worry about cursing, you know, so.
We'll take it.
What about you?
What is my favorite song? Do I have one song that probably I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. I'm telling you, I'm in my car. I can't hit that note, but in my head I can.
You can hit it. It's okay. Let her spirit move you.
I'm breaking mirrors and windows, and it's probably one of my favorite songs of all time.
I love that.
Okay.
Rest her soul.
Maybe one or two more questions.
Yes. Hit 'em.
Kendrick Lamar or Drake?
I have to go with K-Dot. So sorry.
Wow.
What is your opinion on that? I'm so intrigued.
You know, I grew up in the era of like real hip hop beefs. This wasn't it. You got two guys kind of like shoving each other in the hallway. But you know, I like Drake.
Really?
I do. Yeah, I just
it's that Canadian charm, huh?
Yep. It's the establishment, you know.
There you go.
Represents the establishment.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, I really enjoyed this conversation.
This was
Thank
great.
you so much for coming here on the Inside Scoop. I know that people are going to visit your website and support your race. Good luck for you.
Thank you.
In November.
I appreciate you.
And we'll touch base very soon. So thank you again for joining us this evening on Inside Scoop. We'll see you next week with our next host. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you next time.